Hello, and welcome to the Tulsa City County Library's program entitled What Just Happened. I am Alicia Latimer, coordinator of the African American Resource Center. What Just Happened is a program designed to showcase recent events impacting the Tulsa community with an emphasis on matters of historical significance. On behalf of the Tulsa City County Library, CEO Kimberly Johnson, and the African American Resource Center, or AARC. We offer our heartfelt thanks to each presenter. TCCL will offer this program as an historical record for posterity and for the benefit of future generations. Today's panelists include representatives from various community organizations who will provide insights and resource information designed to document what is going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and around the U.S. In a few moments, we will meet several panelists who play a significant role in promoting awareness of social justice issues and also have a stake in educating the public about what happened in Tulsa in 1921 and 2020. Our focus is always on ways to enhance our local trajectory for growth and revitalization. The panelists will now introduce themselves, name the organizations they represent, and discuss progress currently being made. Following the introductions, resources, ideas, progress, and opportunities for engagement will be provided. So, hello panelists, are you ready to begin?
Hi, I'm Mechelle Brown, Program Coordinator for the Greenwood Cultural Center.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Mechelle Place, and I'm the Executive Director for the Tulsa Historical Society and Museum.
Question one, we start with the Tulsa Race Massacre began May 31st, 1921, and culminated in 2 consecutive days of widespread violence and devastation against the Black community in Tulsa's Greenwood neighborhood, one of the wealthiest Black communities in the nation at the time, leaving many residents dead or imprisoned and homes, churches, and businesses destroyed. In 1921, racial matters reached the boiling point, which led to 35 city blocks being burned to the ground. Here on the 99th anniversary of that horrific event, you are invited to look at the racial matters that have been brought to the forefront regarding policing and race and movements such as the Black Lives Matter initiative. Could you discuss any similarities one might see between what happened in 1921 and what is currently going on in 2020?
So for me, it seems that we have once again reached a boiling point in our community. We felt that I would say throughout the month of June, there was so many different things going on, not just here in Tulsa, but across the nation, that revealed how far we have to go in terms of addressing racism and injustices in our society. Here in Tulsa, with it being the 99th commemoration of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, I think that we were emotionally raw. And then with Trump's rally here near the Greenwood district, with there being talk of him wanting to visit the Greenwood district, the historical Greenwood district, and rallies, ongoing rallies and protests, it just seemed that once again we had reached our limit, and it, for many of us, I think, caused some anxiety, a sense of fear, a sense of frustration and anger. I can't tell you, even though our facility has been closed since mid-March, we would go in periodically to work for a few hours and prepare to reopen, and people were stopping by, knocking on our door, just wanting to talk, looking for someone to talk to, just wanting to get their feelings off their chest. There were several young people, young men, early 20s, early to mid 20s, who were just so frustrated and said, we are so tired of hearing the older generation say, we need to pray about it. We need to put this in God's hands and we need to just trust God. They said, you've been doing that for generation after generation, decade after decade, and here we are. And so it was painful to hear these young men be so frustrated and feeling that they wanted to do something. They wanted action. They wanted to do something and know that people were hearing them. And for them, they felt that no one was hearing them. They didn't feel that, you know, my generation, my parents, that we were actually listening to them and hearing and appreciating how they feel. But it's been definitely a difficult period for us in Tulsa for a number of different reasons.
Yes, Mechelle Place.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me today to participate in this very important conversation. I am a person of hope. I am a positive person. I also live by the more things change, the more they stay the same. I think we've done a lot. We've come a long way, and what has just happened, I think, has really brought to light how much farther we have to go. Patriotism is making your voice heard, but I think equally more important is that it is time for the majority to listen, to really listen. My heart breaks for these young men, Mechelle, who were knocking on your door and so frustrated, and they do need to be heard. They do need to be heard. One of the things that I'm encouraging people, whether I see it on Facebook or in a conversation, our institution is also closed, is that I will often say, well, what do your Black friends say? And if they say, well, I don't have any Black friends, then I say, well, you know, I recommend you get some. I mean, I try to say it nicer than that, but I'm pretty firm about that.
Yeah.
And let me say that I'm grateful, particularly to the two of you who've been so, I feel like we've been on a journey together. And I'm grateful for that. And I just wish that more people would do it. I will tell you that I think we're at an awakening by so many people. And how I say that is, at the Tulsa Historical Society Museum, we launched a new website a year ago. From January until June, we had 187,000 hits on our website. Okay, that's a really great number. But this year, from January to June 15th, we had 4.68 million hits.
Wow.
They came from all over the world. And one of the things that we have done, and the reason that I believe we have so many of those hits, is because we have worked for years to make available through our website globally everything that the Tulsa Historical Society has in their collection that refers to Greenwood, Black Wall Street, the Race Massacre, post 1921. I didn't realize how big a deal that was. I just thought it was the right thing to do. But now I understand it is a big deal. And I think it's showing by the numbers of people who are looking for information. We've talked to national and international media. They're trying very hard to understand. Tulsa, I think, has, like it or not, we're a hot topic. Mm-hmm. And I really sense this awakening, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Many of our local organizations serve as sources of information and commentary to national and local news outlets and sites of social gatherings. They serve as sites of social gatherings. If you believe that in community improvements are in the making that will benefit Tulsa citizens in the long run, can you discuss those improvements in detail and the role your organization has provided or is providing as far as sharing that information on a national and local level? Michelle, you basically covered a bit of that,
I,
but there may be more you can add. And Michelle Brown, you also are welcome.
yeah. Well, another thing that we did besides making our collection available online, and I have talked to media internationally. In fact, the very first call that I got was in 2001 from a reporter from New Zealand who wanted to talk to someone about the riot, which is what we were calling it at the time. I had lived in Tulsa for 15 years. I had never heard that term before. So I needed it. I think because of Tulsa, the most often question that I'm asked is, why did I never hear about this? And I think particularly Tulsans are really angry that they never heard about it. They can't believe this happened in their community. And of course, I think there are a number of reasons why neither side talked about it. But now it's, as I used the word before, it's this awakening.
Another question that we want to ask. Juneteenth celebrations began spontaneously on June 19, 1865, amidst shouts, dances, prayers, and songs. The slaves in Galveston, Texas, reacted to the delayed news of freedom due to the Emancipation Proclamation and Proclamation Number 3, which both announced 2 years later, after they had been freed, that the slaves were free to those slaves. Since 1866, descendants of former slaves began to gather yearly to celebrate Juneteenth. Now, in considering the role of place in historical narratives, how has Tulsa, Oklahoma's handling of events past and present shaped the historical context of what just happened in consideration of the Juneteenth celebrations? Either one of you.
Go ahead.
Big question. So how has, say that again,
When
Alicia,
we look at place,
and maybe shorten it a little bit.
Yes. How has Tulsa, Oklahoma's handling of events shape the historical context of what just happened in consideration of the Juneteenth celebration?
Oh.
Okay, I know that was a mouthful.
Yes, it was. And that's a hard question to answer because, and I think the response may depend on who you ask, but I think for our community, the handling of the Juneteenth celebration this year was impacted by the discussion of and the consideration of Trump's rally being in Tulsa that same weekend, and the potential of it being on the very same day. And so I think at times we felt, or at least let me say that at times I felt that the city of Tulsa at times failed to consider the feelings, the emotions, the culture and heritage of the African American community. I at times felt that shouldn't have even, that more consideration should have been given to the date that was chosen and the impact that it may have had or was going to have on our community. So it's a difficult question, and it caused a lot of you know, a lot of really heated and emotional responses and conversations in our community. And I don't know why, but sometimes I think we are looked to as the organization that should know everything about what's going on and why everyone is doing what they're doing. So people were calling us, asking us about the Black leaders that they referred to, that they had spoken to Black leaders, and asked them to give them a tour of the Greenwood District. So everyone wanted to know, well, who did they talk to? Who are these leaders that are going to give them a tour? And who is blessing their visit to the Greenwood District Juneteenth weekend? And this is not, I mean, Juneteenth doesn't just happen for us Friday night. You know, it's basically, we party from, it started Thursday. Traditionally, it would start Thursday night and it would go all weekend till Sunday it would end with a gospel festival on Sunday night. So this was an all weekend thing for us. And it seemed to be, there was the potential for it to be tarnished because of so many things that were taking place in our community and the impact of different racially motivated injustices that had taken place across the country. But I think what we did was to come together and to show the commitment that we have to our community, show the love that we have for our community, show how important this was for us. And there's a group of people that made this happen in a very short amount of time. And they pulled this together. And so that speaks to their commitment and their, you know, strength in their character, and a diverse group of people. You know, there's a group that put on much of what was taking place Friday. There's another group that came in and took care of what was happening Saturday. There was a group of young Black activists that led some of the activities I think took place overnight between Friday and Saturday. So a lot of people coming forward, wanting to make sure that this was successful, wanting to make sure that this took place. And from all accounts, it was beautiful. It was amazing to see so many people out enjoying themselves, enjoying each other, enjoying what we love about our culture, which is the rich music and the food and the energy, the dance and all of that. So yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Mechelle, please.
Well, I was absolutely horrified when I first heard that President Trump was coming to Tulsa. Let's start, realized or knew what day he was coming. It was, here we are in the midst of COVID. And my understanding was that Juneteenth, as a community, had decided, because it's wiser for all of us, we're not going to have this year. We're not going to have this celebration. And that certainly was understandable. I mean, everything is closed down. But then when anytime you have a president come to your community, it's a big deal. I get that. But I felt that there was a real sense that Tulsa wasn't having a say, that it was, where are our voices and what's important to us, that we were completely taken over by the Secret Service. We were completely taken over by the campaign. And it's, when do our people get to be heard? And so I was very pleased, just in awe of what did happen with the Juneteenth in the Greenwood District, and how, what an amazing coming together of the community. When you had put all of the plans on hold, suddenly it is warp speed and put it all together. And I thought it was beautiful. And what I hope that the rest of the nation, the rest of the world saw was Tulsa and the goodness of Tulsa. I loved that the crowds were wearing masks. I loved it that there was social distancing. I loved that it was diverse. And I think Greenwood better get ready for a really big deal next year, because I think a lot of Tulsa's going to turn out. And I think a lot of the world saw what Greenwood is capable of, and they want to be a part.
Absolutely.
My hat is off to those people who sprung into action, which maybe that's the lesson there. Maybe that's the spirit of Greenwood, that even in the face of what happened in 1921, here it is again, this commitment to community, to help one another, this enthusiasm and tenacity. I thought the very best of Tulsa was on display over Juneteenth in Greenwood, Oklahoma.
Absolutely. When we consider the impact of COVID-19 and look at political issues of 2020, what impact do you think the national attention from President Trump's visit has on how the world might view Tulsa now? Do you believe there are residual effects that might be of import in the long or short run?
Do I have to answer this question? Because I don't think I have anything nice to say. And my mama told me, if you don't have anything nice to say at all. Can that be my answer?
Yes, it can. Mechelle Brown.
You know, we started being swamped with media attention actually around the right before the commemoration, and then once it was made known that President Trump was planning to visit the Greenwood district, we received an overwhelming response from the media that wanted to know what we thought about it, how we felt about it. And so I initially was so emotional that I didn't want to speak about it. I didn't want to talk to anybody, because I felt that I'm not going to be able to hold my tongue. I'm simply not going to be able to hold my tongue. And there were times when I wasn't. There were times when I said, he is simply not welcome in our community, and that I stand with the community that says that this is the wrong time. In light of COVID-19, in light of so many other things, this is not the right time. But I think the silver lining is the number of people that reached out to us in support of what we're doing, in support of our mission, in support of educating others. We still receive calls from people who said, I saw the NBC article or broadcast, the Jane Pauley morning show broadcast. What are they talking about? I've never heard of this before. People are still just now finding out about this. So, you know, the positive that we can draw from this is the amount of attention that this has been given, and how more and more people are finding out about it and wanting to know about it. And as Mechelle Place said earlier, many people are angry and upset that they consider themselves to be well-educated and well-traveled, and they never knew anything about Black Wall Street or the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. And so they are committing themselves in a very passionate way to becoming better educated and to making sure that their children and future generations are educated as well. And that's the best thing that can happen from all of this, because that's what our survivors wanted. That's what was important for many of them, was while they never received reparations, they wanted to make sure that their children and grandchildren and future generations knew about the rich history of the historic Greenwood district. We continue to receive report from around the world, and while there were a few negative comments and responses, most of the support has been overwhelmingly supportive. And when we reopened on the 1st of July, we saw people visiting from around the country that are just wanting to come and learn more about it. People simply want to be in the Greenwood district. They want to walk on what we consider sacred grounds. So that's the silver lining, is that more people are educated, and hopefully that will mean more support, more resources, more funding, to help further this movement to become better educated and make sure that this is a part of not only Oklahoma's education system, but every school in the country should be including this history in their history lessons.
Thank you.
Well said. I think that with President Trump coming, it warp speed everything up. I think we were expecting this kind of attention next year. I mean, that's sort of where we've been headed. Yeah. But with President Trump coming to Tulsa just at that time, it was the perfect storm, if you will. And so we can look at it positively and say, we just got to get started educating more people farther and wider, and locally too.
Yes.
That if he had not come, I don't think we would have had the intensity this year.
Mm-hmm. If you were to sum up the collective impact of the last few weeks, as in light of what happened with George Floyd, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with all of the attention that was drawn to Tulsa, to how we handled what happened in 1921 and what just happened. Is there a collective impact that you could summarize to say, this is what will be most impactful or most useful for future practices?
As a community or as an organization?
Yes, both, either.
I think for us as an organization, it has helped us realize how we have to grow in our ability to reach classrooms and audiences around the country. We have to offer some type of virtual tour and programming. There has to be just more that's available online. From our organizations and similar organizations, there are so many more people now that are telling the story and that are stepping forward to represent the community and represent this history. I think one of the things that it has stressed is our need to come together and to learn from each other. This has opened our eyes in many ways of, as a community, of how far we have come and how far we have grown, but just of how much we continue to go through. It speaks to our resilience and to our courage and our determination that facing the massacre, from the massacre in 21 through everything that our people have endured, through what continues to happen today, it just speaks to our courage and strength and to determination. But honestly, it also speaks to our weariness. It also speaks to our frustration. It also speaks to a need to do things differently. It speaks to a need to not just march and protest, but to understand that we have to address policies and procedures and address real change, making real change, become involved in local politics, become involved in voting, making sure that we are registered to vote, that our voices are heard. And I think that as a community, I've seen much more of that really in the last 5 years or so. I've seen more people want to be involved in the process, want to attend city council meetings. They want to make sure that they're encouraging others to vote. And they realize that we don't just need to vote when it's time to vote for a president. What happens locally is just as important to us, if not more. So I think that we have been energized in some ways and propelled to become active, to come together, to talk, to discuss, to come up with a common or common goals, what we're asking for, what we need, what we expect, and just utilize some of this young energy, these young people that are saying that they want to see something happen, they want to make something, they want to do something. There's something that we can give them to do. So I definitely feel somewhat more empowered and really proud of our community at the way we've handled all of the obstacles and the challenges and the things that have been thrown at us recently. I'm really proud to see how we have come together and supported one another, and how we continue to move forward.
Mechelle, please, your comment.
Well said, Mechelle Brown. Well said. I see my role more in education. The second most asked question is, why do we have to talk about this? Why do we have to keep talking about this? And so I think that's my job, is to enlighten as best I can, to ask those probing questions, to help move the majority population into more of a willingness to listen and to understand. I think it's happening locally as well as nationally. So the Black Lives Matter movement, help understand why we need to do that, and what is that fear, that weariness as our Black youth get into a car or walk a neighborhood, and the fear of a parent for their children, and that should be universal. And there are too many people that don't understand the reality of what that is for so many people in our country, and really what social justice means. And I think that often we as Americans get to, particularly in the white majority, we get to live safe, simple lives. In fact, I've seen that a lot on the Facebook lately. It's like, where is taught, just be tolerant. You go do what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I want to do. Well, you know what? Our world is far more complicated than that. And nothing says white privilege more than you go do what you want to do, and I'll do what I do, in my opinion.
Okay.
And Ms. Latimer, can I say one more thing?
Certainly.
I appreciate Mechelle Place saying that she is, her role is education, but she's having those discussions and encouraging those discussions, and asking that those, some of the people on her, social media timelines ask their Black friend or perhaps a Black person. And I've been a part of a couple of leadership groups lately where we continue to meet virtually, and we've had these small group conversations online where they asked us to speak about racism and injustice. And I have to tell you that I am simply tired of trying to explain racism and injustice to white people. I just cannot no more explain it to them. I cannot try to get them to feel what I feel as a Black mother with two adult sons, what it feels like to not be able to sleep at night, to toss and turn, because there is so many different things going on, because of when racial injustices such as Aubrey and many others that take place across the country, and then it makes you fearful. It awakens that fear, and you realize just how unsafe we are simply because of the color of our skin. And so I do not want to continue putting that out there for people to see, almost as if it's entertainment, because I don't feel that oftentimes that it's really felt, that it's appreciated, that they can really understand what it feels like and we, you know, we were afraid for our young men. Now we're afraid for our young women. Now we're afraid for older people. Now we're afraid for teenagers walking down the street. I mean, it's just simply too much. And so what I'm encouraging, and I realized that in these small groups, that when whites were asked to talk about racism, to talk about injustice, they didn't really have much to say. But we know when you read some of the social media posts of other Tulsa residents, and the conversation is about Black Lives Matter or racial injustice or police brutality, they have a lot to say, right? And it's very racist, it's very demeaning. And so I'm suggesting that white people have conversations with white people, that white people are not as free or not as, they do not take the, they're not saying in these small group conversations with African Americans what they're saying in their homes, what they're saying in their churches or their classrooms or their own social constructs. They're not making those same comments in front of us that they're making behind our backs. So it's up to white people to have those conversations with white people, white allies who truly are standing with us and believe in equality, that believe in fairness, that believe that all men should be treated equal. Then when no Black person is around, say the same thing to your friend or your family member or your child that you would say if we were standing beside you. Do not allow that racist rhetoric to continue. Don't feed into it. Don't laugh at their jokes. And I have seen some people that I know that have been a part of those groups, you know, stand up to others online to say that's not okay to say. And I don't agree with that. But we need for white people to have those conversations with white people and address their racism, address their feelings, their emotions towards African Americans, because I don't think that whatever it is that we've been doing has not seemed to move the needle much. We are seeing more people stand up and walk with us and hold our hand. And we realize that Martin Luther King Jr. during his era made a lot of progress, but we know that he didn't do it alone. We know that he had allies that fought with him and stood beside him. And that's what we need today. We just need more of that. And we need that in our presence and when we're not there.
So another thing that the Historical Society Museum has done is a couple of years ago, we did an exhibit on Greenwood, and we called it the Spirit of Greenwood, because we think that you can't talk about May 31 and June 1 without talking about up to May 30th, and then you have to talk about June 2nd on fall weekends. And so we did an exhibit that covered all of that. And then what we did within the last year was to take that exhibit and transfer it onto what we call a pop-up exhibit. There's no technology to it. We want it to be very easy to use. Mm-hmm. And so it's 5 different panels on 2-sided. There's no technology, nothing to go wrong. And of course, it goes with the curriculum that has been produced by the Oklahoma Historical Society and the public school system. And so all you have to do is call the Historical Society and we would bring it out. So that's how we started. We received this grant to produce more copies of this exhibit about the Spirit of Greenwood and also the race massacre. And we have worked with the library systems in northeastern Oklahoma. There are several communities that have it in their system, and so their local schools or businesses, groups, churches, whoever, could contact their local library system and have it come to their facility.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that that's taking place, Mechelle. We are, in the midst of this pandemic, we realize how important it is to offer virtual programming and information. So we are working to make sure that the files, the photographs, the narrative, everything that we have is available digitally. Right now, we're completing a virtual tour of the Mabel B. Little Heritage House that includes some narrative and some history about the house. And we are working with Dr. Carlos Hill with the University of Oklahoma. They are creating an exhibit that will be housed initially at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, and then it will travel to their university here, and then it will be housed permanently at the Greenwood Cultural Center. And it's somewhat, from the way that it's being designed now, it's designed so that it can be a traveling exhibit. So there will be some recordings of the survivors' testimonies, many of the photos that we've used, and some narrative. But so we're working and hopefully we'll have that completed by the 1st of 2021. Definitely want to have it completed by the 100-year commemoration. And then eventually, once we have completed the renovation of the Greenwood Cultural Center, which is some time out, we will create virtual tours of the exhibits that we have, which we expect to change. They definitely need to be updated and edited and revised and made a little more modern. I mean, they've pretty much been the same exhibits that we've had for quite a long time. So one of our priorities is securing funding for specifically to redesign the exhibits, but also to begin to consider how we can redesign the facility as we look forward to the funding that's been designated through the City of Tulsa's Improve Our Tulsa package. And I know there are some great things coming that are specific to the Greenwood District. Some initiatives. I think there's a Main Street program for the Greenwood area. I know that the Greenwood Chamber is working. They have new programs and different initiatives to help redevelop that area. So I think there are a lot of exciting things that are coming for the Greenwood District in that area where we're housed over the next couple of years. So
I'll ask each of you if you would like to say, give a response to the question after looking closely at what just happened. Where do we go from here? Where do you think we're going to go from here? And we'll let that be your closing remarks.
Deep in my heart, I do believe. And it's my job. It's my job. Mechelle, you said it so beautifully. You've lived this for a long time. I remember going to Europe to a conference that I was with Alicia there and telling Europeans it would be so easy for me to live a white life. It would be so easy. Piece of cake. Stay in my neighborhood, attend my white church, my neighborhood schools, my neighborhood grocery store. And that's very limiting. So it's my job. I have to reach out, not only to build those relationships within our North Tulsa community and beyond, but it's also my job to bring my white brothers and sisters along on the journey. That's my life's work. I would like to add that you know, history since the beginning of time has been written by the victors. And so you only get the victorious side of the story. And I really would encourage everyone to tell their side, their experiences, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. Because if we don't have all sides recorded, then we don't get the whole story. We don't get the whole story, the whole picture of what really happened. So I know that much of this story is painful, it is fearful, you don't want to talk about it. But if you don't talk about it, then I'm not going to understand. I need to hear your voice. And I know it's difficult and I know it's hard, but I am begging you, in order for all of us to move in the right way down this path, we have to hear all the voices. Please, please tell your story.
Absolutely. Mechelle, do you have more to say? Or
I think I said enough, but I think
No,
that's why I
never
stopped
enough.
talking. That's why I was calling people like Regina and Kevin Ross, like, hey, you want to do this interview? But I think that moving forward, and I want to be hopeful. Like, I truly want to be hopeful and believe that there is better for our community, that there's better for our city, that there is better for our nation. And I think that as we become better educated and we put ourselves in some of those uncomfortable situations and we have some really real conversations with people, you know, I think that we have no other option but to move forward and to work with those that are willing to work with us, speak to those that are willing to listen, love those that are willing to be loved, and simply continue to move forward as we all always have.
in closing, I'll say that feeling of having to explain or feeling tired of explaining is addressed in many of the resources available through each of our organizations. The library has resources where the issues of diversity and inclusion are readily available. We each, Mechelle has resources, the Cultural Center, and talk about cultural issues, cultural matters. So we each are doing our part, and that is what is important. It is important, like, that we make our statements, our feelings known, our opportunities are known, our resources available. And that's what we're doing to document this record in time. I believe in 1921, there were not enough people documenting what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so we encourage people who may view this program, who may be in connection with each of our organizations, we encourage you to reach out and provide photos. We are able to document. Mechelle, you have a program available for people to document what happened with them. Tulsa City County Library at tulsalibrary.org has a medium through which people can share their own experiences. Mechelle, you are also capturing that information or available for people to give those oral histories, to provide those written documents. But further than that, the video recordings. There are people who had pleasant and unpleasant experiences that they're only sharing with their family. We want to capture that information. That's why we're engaging in this program, and there will be others like it. That is why news outlets from around the country, around the world, focused, because there is a record being made of what happened for posterity, so that your grandchildren, great grandchildren, ancestors on down the line can say, oh yes, I know about the Greenwood Cultural Center. I know about Tulsa Historical Society. I know about the Tulsa City County Library. I know about the John Hope Franklin Center. I know about the Centennial Commission. I know about what happens with City of Tulsa with the Commissioner Vanessa Vanessa Hall Harper. We know these things at Tulsa Community College, Tulsa Public Schools, Pauline Harris, all of us are doing our part. And it's more
Yeah.
than just this, but certainly to make it available. So you have made significant
Yeah.
contributions and can please continue to do so. Thank you. That concludes our program. Thank you, ladies. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you. The
Thank
final quote
you.
we'll use. The final quote we'll use is until the lion tells his own tale, stories of victories of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.